Get ready for Changing Worldviews with Sharon Hughes, the 30-minute show packed with an hour's worth of information, bringing you familiar guests on important issues such as immigration, education, the Middle East, culture, religion, and the changing worldviews of Americans and the world. You've seen her on Fox News, you've read her on the World Wide Web. Now here's Sharon.
For such a time as this.
Freeing the minds of the brainwashed masses.
Thanks for joining me, everyone, for our weekend edition of the show when Debra Ray and Audrey Russo join me to talk about a topic that we know our listeners are very interested in.
But this imam and pastor are traveling the world now, talking about the joys of Chrislam and how we can have joint services where we read the Quran and the Bible side by side.
Well, didn't we actually have a Chrislam Sunday here in the United States recently?
June 26th of 2011 was Chrislam Sunday.
What does that mean?
Several hundred churches brought a Muslim leader or cleric in, and they read the Quran and the Bible side by side.
In the churches?
Today we're going to be talking about Chrislam Part 2 in a series that Debra, Audrey, and I did. Part 1 got an awful lot of interest online, and so we know this is a topic that people are very interested in. And what is Chrislam? Well, it's really a new religion. It's a mixture, a blending, a melding of Christianity and Islam. We do describe it in detail in Part 1. If you missed that show, you can hear it online. Go to changingworldviews.com and click on the archives. That show aired March 1st of this year. Today we'll continue the discussion with examples. It's pretty eye-opening to see what some churches in America are doing in the name of political correctness, in the name of tolerance. Everything from having joint baptisms, having the Bible and the Quran in the pews, teaching Sunday school children about Muhammad. So stay with me. We'll give you more details right after this.
You're listening to Sharon Hughes, coming to you from the Wild, Wild West, and we mean wild.
Well, thanks for staying with me. Okay, here is Part 2 on Chrislam, a growing phenomena here in the United States. Here it is. What I want to do is talk about how this idea of Chrislam really fits into a larger picture of something that's known as the one world religion that's supposed to be coming on our world, a one world government. We've talked about that. A one world religion, is that something that we're seeing take place? And also some real specifics of why we need to pay attention to Chrislam. If you just tuned in, it's a movement that is taking place increasingly here in the United States with some of the mainline churches. Specifically, we found out about it when a Presbyterian church in Houston, it was passed around on the internet, where they were beginning to do a series of sermons designed to produce an ecumenical reconciliation, they say, between Christianity and Islam. And in addition to sermons, they had Sunday school lessons for the children, teaching, quote, the inspired teachings of the Prophet Muhammad. They put Qurans next to the Bibles in the pews and so forth. Yeah, so some people that are ecumenical minded, that believe, really, why can't we just sing Kumbaya, and why can't we just give peace a chance? Why can't we just give a one world religion a chance? Right?
Or I could tell you, all of us can say tons of reasons why this could never work, or it would never work. We cannot have fellowship with a religion that clearly denies the deity of Jesus, if you're a Christian, because he's the centerpiece of Christianity. I was watching a conversation between, actually, a panel of Lee Strobel and Ergun Caner. You're familiar with him? He's a convert from Islam. He was an imam. He's a convert from Islam to Christianity. Mm-hmm. And this is a quote from it. And he said, in Islam, they deny the fatherhood of God. They deny the deity of the Son. They deny the person of the Holy Spirit. Exactly what part of God are we agreeing upon? We are talking about the nature of God, not terminology. The God of the Bible is the God who saves, the God who is intimate. Jesus is the God-man. You cannot take a name like Abraham, or Abraham as we know it, and or Isa, or Jesus as we know him, and say we are talking about the same God, end of quote. So there is no similarity whatsoever. It's antithetical completely. So what is it exactly we are agreeing on?
Well, I think those people that aren't educating themselves on what's really going on here recognize that Islam or Muslims are the heirs of Ishmael, who was Isaac's brother, both sons of Abraham. And so that's why there's this, this blanket that's thrown out over the world saying that Judaism, Christianity, and Islam they worship the same God because the roots are Abraham, but that's not true. Wow. It's the Arab nations that are the heirs of Ishmael or the sons of Ishmael. Islam is not. You won't find anything about Islam in the Old Testament or the New Testament. That was something that came about with Muhammad. As you said, Debra, he had some experience, and that's what Ramadan celebrates the Quran, but that was long after. That was separate from. And just for the record, and we've had Waleed Shobat on and others, as you mentioned, Audrey, that have been converts to Christianity from Islam, and they clearly, from their own experience, point out the fact that Muhammad, originally, he was having these experiences, and his wife told him, he was hearing from God. He wasn't having a psychotic breakdown. And so he went to Jews, and he went to Christians, and he said, what about this? And he took some of, it was actually a priest and a rabbi, and he had them captive, and he had them write things for him that are in the first part of the Quran that kind of sound like maybe it's in harmony with the Bible. But then when Christianity and when Judaism rejected that, then he came on with a different side, and that's where we see what we know today, jihad and all of that. So just for the record, if you want to be a Muslim, if you want to practice Islam, you are free to do that. If you want to be a Christian or you want to be a Jew, you're free to do that. We are just talking about the fact that it's impossible to mix Christianity or even Judaism with Islam.
Exactly. Solid archaeological evidence overwhelmingly refutes the Islamic identification with the God of the Bible, because really it's a revival of the ancient moon god cult. Look at its ceremonies, its rites, its symbols, its name. It came from ancient pagan religion.
Exactly.
And what happened historically, if you check it out, when the moon god's popularity weakened, Arabs continued its worship as their chief deity, but then they called it Allah, generic for the God. And I must say that when I lived in the Near East, it was very apparent that Christians did not say Alhamdulillah. They did not say praise Allah, because they recognize in that culture that Allah is not one and the same. You don't, as a Christian, praise the moon god.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It was all taken from paganism. I mean, the Kaaba there, that big black stone, had 20 stones in it. They were all separate gods. And Muhammad was a very good politician, and when he couldn't remove that, he removed the stones from that and still let them worship the stone.
Yeah.
So much like Constantine in the 4th century A.D., when, for the sake of political expediency and all, he embraced Christianity but added to it pagan practices of the day to set up this syncretistic religion for the sake of appeasement. And we must learn from history, or else we're going to repeat it.
Right.
Christianity with paganism, maybe, or not paganism, any religion, Islam, for example, it may service certain ambitions, and it may be opportunistic for some people, but it skews pure doctrine of biblical Christianity.
Right. And here in America, we have freedom of religion. We are not in any way saying that we are against freedom of religion. That is not what we're talking about. We're talking about a mixture, a merging of religions and what the problems are with that. So we have to take a break here. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Exposing the worldviews behind the political, cultural, and ideological wars being waged in our nation and world, Sharon packs an hour's worth of information into every half hour with news you can use.
We have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
Things are being put in place that could change the American way of life forever unless we get off the wrong paths and get back on the right ones that are proven, safe, secure, and healthy for our generation and future ones. We're going to be in trouble.
A new world order. Never waste a good crisis.
A world order that I think all of us would like to see.
The United States does not accept the legitimacy of continued Israeli settlements. It is time for these settlements to stop.
Hamas exists to destroy Israel. Their mission is to kill Israelis, to kill Jews.
However, just because evil men have plans to wipe our freedoms off the map, or Israel off the map, or whatever, in order to rule the world, it doesn't mean that it will happen. At least it doesn't have to happen here in America.
Won't you help reach even more listeners with a financial donation? Go to www.changingworldviews.com, donate page, and give either a one-time contribution or become a monthly partner. Or send your check to Changing World Views, P.O. Box 750624, Petaluma, California 94975-0624.
Now understand that Christianity is what suffers when you begin to look at these two religions, because no imam is going to bring a Bible into his mosque and read it from the pulpit.
Or allow a Christian to come in and talk about Jesus.
Thanks, everyone, for continuing with us. Debra, Audrey, and I are talking here today in what we're calling Part 2 on a subject about an issue that I didn't really know about. How about you girls?
Just found out about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's apparently it's been around since the 80s, but that was in Africa, so it's come to our shores.
It's come to America. Now, before we get into some of the other things that we have that I know that comes out of your research, I just want to throw this out here, that here in America we have freedom of religion, and it's not our purpose here to talk about the founders and the pilgrims and all of that and how they came here for freedom of religion, and they developed a government to ensure that the government would not impose a religion on the people, but rather that the people would have freedom of religion. And that's true. Audrey, we've interviewed Avi Lipkin and Jews from other countries in Israel as well. And, you know, they say in America, they enjoy the greatest freedom except for in Israel. So they, even though they're a small percentage, they are grateful for America. Even being a Christian nation, they are grateful as Jews to be here.
Yes, absolutely, because that is the benefit of a Christian nation, is that it protects everyone's right to worship God. You know, the God of the Bible does not force anyone to worship Him, unlike the so-called God of the Quran. And so, you know, there's no forced conversion. You know, so of course the Jews know that. Being one myself, they know that this is where they can worship freely because it's Christianity that started it. That we're, you know, the religion of founders, and so this is in our doctrinal, you know, in our founding documents, which is unlike any other nation in the world. Mm-hmm. So this is why it's protected, and they're protected and they feel safe here. But that can't be said if they went to an Islamic state.
Right. And not only are we seeing Chrislam, but we're seeing where in Britain, we've talked about this before, even the Archbishop of Canterbury was saying, he's gave into the political correctness over there, saying that Sharia law should be able to be practiced in British courts alongside a British law. And we have those now in America, some in the Obama administration, saying that Sharia law should be able to be practiced in American courts along with American law. So this is this is an important subject, talking about Chrislam. Those in the quote-unquote Christian church in the effort of peace, you know, with our neighbors, mixing Christianity and Islam, even to the point of putting, you know, the Quran next to the Bible in the pews. This is actually part of, I believe, a bigger movement to move Sharia into the United States.
Really. And in a manner of speaking, what Chrislam does is jam Christianity and Islam into a magic hat of sorts, and with the wave of a wand pulls out a love bunny by its proverbial, you know, with a sorry mutation. Yeah. And if you want to talk tolerance, which people do, America allows thousands of mosques for Muslims to freely worship Allah. Right. But you go to the Arab countries, there's not one Christian church of Muslim converts to Christianity in any one of their countries, and yet the finger is being pointed at the West for intolerance.
Yeah.
So we need to stand up and realize that there's something wrong with the argument here.
Yeah, and let me just point out to our new listeners, Debra has not only traveled, but she's lived in the Middle East, so she knows something of what she's talking about. And I can't help think, Audrey, about the whole Ground Zero Mosque as well. We talked about this on a prior show where they were saying, and even Obama himself saying that this was a matter of freedom of religion, and yet there's over, almost 200 mosques in New York City alone. It's not about freedom of religion.
Yeah, it's not about freedom of religion. That is very simple, and I'd say, the Muslims that are supporting her, it's really, I'd have to say it's like a taqiyya practicing Muslims, meaning they can lie to unbelievers to do what they need to do for Islam. This is, especially when it comes to that mosque, it's much deeper than that, because then we have to look into the ideology, and to do it there, it's very alarming, especially because you have a Christian church there that was destroyed in the attacks and still has not been rebuilt, and it's funny that all the politicians are on the side of building this mosque.
Not all of them, just those we don't agree with in New York. Yeah. Well, and I think it's important to point out here that this is not being against Muslims. I mean, It is not that. The whole idea of America is a melting pot. You come here, we are Americans, and you are free to practice a belief in God or not believe in God according to your conscience. And the only thing that American law does is if in your practice it's something that's against the law, such as polygamy is against the law. So you can't practice that here in America, or murdering or whatever. And so you are free to worship here in America as you want. And we don't ever want to see that right go away. But we want truth. And we want to be a part of exposing when things are being done that just are not going to bear good fruit. And that brings to the subject of why Chrislam would never work. We kind of talked about it a little bit, but even more specific, Debra, why won't it work?
Well, I think the key principle here is found in the 3rd chapter of the book of Amos in the Bible, where it says, how can two walk together except they be agreed? And obviously what's being suggested is they can't. There's no way you can join somebody on their way. If you're in Seattle, join them on their way to Canada, let's say. If you're on your way to California, you're not going the same direction. You're not ending up in the same place at all. And so as a Christian, I must say the Bible forbids me to be bound together with unbelievers. And what is the belief that makes me a Christian? It's belief in the divinity and the cross of Christ. So just because Jesus is said to be mentioned 25 times in the Quran doesn't validate claim to its inspiration or authenticity.
Right.
The Quran outright denies Christ's death on the cross, outright denies who he is, as we've said over and over again. It's apostasy. It's away from standing away from what is true, to stand away from what we have known or previously known and embraced. And really, when you're talking about a one-world religious agenda, the book of Revelation warns of great apostasy, which is earmarked by nations coming together into one mind that's typified by apostasy. And this single-minded conglomerate will exercise what the Bible says is a form of religion, but it denies the power of it. Right. And isn't that exactly what we're talking about with Chrislam? It's a form of religion. It has a semblance to it, but it is devoid of God's power because it's devoid of the divinity of Jesus Christ and the power of the resurrection.
Yeah.
And we're how can two walk together unless they agree, right? Well, if we agree that we worship the same God, then we're calling the God of the Bible a liar.
Right.
Yeah. And we're calling Christ a deceiver because he said he was the great I am.
Right.
He identified himself as the Son of the living God and told Peter that he spoke right when he said, you are the Son of the living God. You are God. And if he is a deceiver, we certainly wouldn't want to follow him, so why would a Chrislamist want to follow that kind of a leader?
Yeah, and we're going to have to take a break here, ladies and gentlemen. When we come back, how about those that aren't Christians and aren't Muslims and are just kind of standing back and looking at this and scratching their head and saying, well, what's the big whoop anyway? So stay with us. We will be right back.
Sharon Hughes, 1640 KDIA.
And now, with a look at what's happening on the legal front, the president of the Pacific Justice Institute, Brad Dacus.
We've all heard lawyer jokes. In fact, many don't see much good coming at all from the legal profession. But the truth is, lawyers have a unique opportunity to right the wrongs and be legal defenders of precious God-given rights, such as the freedom of religion, free speech, and parents' rights over their children's upbringing. However, many attorneys who might want to donate time to defend these freedoms simply don't know where to start. Perhaps you are such an attorney, or maybe know of an attorney likely to value this kind of work. If so, just have them contact us at pji.org. That's pji.org. I'm Brad Dacus.
To find out more about The Legal Edge, call 916-857-6900 or log on at pacificjustice.org.
This month at Changing Worldviews is Remember History Month. Those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it. While there are various versions of that quote, nonetheless, its sentiment rings true to all lovers of truth. Remembering history, in other words, learning from it, is a key to not repeating it. And all month long, we are going to be pointing to and pointing out history, real history, not the rewritten versions. And to go along with that, our special offer this month, yours for a donation of $25 or more, is a 4-part CD series with 10-time Pulitzer Prize nominee Edwin Black on the War on the Weak and IBM and the Holocaust. It's all about Hitler, Israel, and the United States, a very important part of history that we may think we know, but have we learned everything from that part of history we need to? And are we passing on real history to our kids and our grandkids?
Oh, in fact, Hitler wrote fan mail to the associates of Margaret Sanger of Planned Parenthood, who also was a eugenicist and who wished to eliminate the existence of 2/3 of humanity through her methods. I can tell you that Mia Jamaad is attempting to do in 12 minutes what Hitler could not do in 12 years. Virtually all forms of genocide in the last 200 years that I have studied have emanated and been cultivated at the university level.
I'd love to send you this 4-part CD series, War on the Weak and IBM and the Holocaust with Edwin Black, for a donation of $25 or more. Send your check to Changing Worldviews, P.O. Box 750-624, Petaluma, California, 94975-0624. Or you can go to changingworldviews.com, click on the donate button, and the one-time donation for monthly special, changingworldviews.com. Dwayne will give the address again.
Islam has a plan to take over the world. They believe very strongly that they are going to create a worldwide ummah, or nation of Islam.
Plainly, the Muslims have a missionary agenda, and governments, Muslim governments like Saudi Arabia and Kuwait, are funding the evangelization of the West through videos, through booklets, through leaflets, and through many other programs.
Thanks, everyone, for continuing with us. I think that Chrislam, or any other kind of merging of different religions, and we see this in, the New Age movement, merges all religions together, except they haven't been able to merge Christianity in there. Even though New Agers acknowledge Jesus, they call him one of 12 avatars and on and on and on. True Christianity has not at all merged with the New Age. You may have seen individual ones that they've moved into goddess worship or something like that. But here's the deal. In our postmodern generation that bases things on feelings and experiences rather than plumb lines of truth or absolutes, then it fits right in there, because there's going to be people, Gandhi in Hinduism, the Dalai Lama in Buddhism.
There's room for all of that.
There are people that want peace. They seem to be peaceful. They seem to be gracious. And so it seems to be the same thing. It's based on feeling. It's based on relationship and interaction and experiences. And so it's like, sure, they must believe the same thing because they seem to want the same thing. And that's where confusion comes in.
Sure, because their form of peace that they learn in Islam is different than ours. Okay, within we continue to make the mistake in the West of approaching, the Middle East and Muslim thinking mindset with Western thinking. You can't do that. Theirs is when everyone either converts, or those that refuse to convert are either enslaved or they're murdered. That's peace. That's the peace they're talking about. That's not the same peace as we're talking about.
Right.
Yeah. Well, in his epistle to the church at Galatia.
Wait a minute. You better say that again.
Yeah. In his epistle to the church at Galatia, the Apostle Paul cautioned against embracing what he calls another gospel. And we really need to heed Paul's warning here, because the gospel, the good news of Jesus Christ, is summed up, as we've said over and over again, in the divinity of Christ and his efficacious work on Calvary. And apparently this is another gospel that we need to reject.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you may not believe in Jesus Christ or embrace Christianity as your quote-unquote religion. That's your choice. We're not pushing that, though that is clearly what we embrace and what we believe. Right. And if we didn't, we wouldn't be having this show. We wouldn't be talking about this. But I just think that it's really important to put on our critical thinking caps, like we talk about in those shows that we've done on critical thinking, and not make decisions about these huge subjects based on feelings, based on what other people say, based on experiences. Does it make me feel good? Does it make me feel bad? Or I just want peace. Why can't we just give peace a chance? Well, gosh, we all want peace. My goodness, we all want peace.
But again, it depends on your definition of peace.
Yeah.
It's not the same peace. The way, we look at what a Muslim mindset looks at compromise. It's something they look at it as weakness. Okay, but they on the other hand, we look at it as weakness. Excuse me, I'm sorry. They look at it as weakness, but we don't. They look at peace the way the Quran tells them to, which is submission. Mm-hmm. That's what Islam is. So either we submit, or again, enslavement or murder, and then there will be peace. So it's not the same peace, And again, as you had mentioned, it has nothing to do with Muslim themselves. We're not against Muslims. We're against the ideology here. And it should not be walking hand in hand with Christianity.
We're not trying to say that we're supposed to shun Muslims. It's not our mandate, though, to find common ground spiritually with them. The Great Commission of Christ is to make disciples of all nations. Christians, we accept the Holy Bible as truth, but no matter how many apparent similarities folks postulate, the two books, the Bible and the Muslim Quran, are fundamentally incompatible.
Well, that's it for today, ladies and gentlemen. We will continue the discussion in part 3. As always, I look forward to your thoughts and comments about any of the subjects that we address on the show. You can post your comments on Facebook, Twitter, or email us at talk@changingworldviews.com, and do your own homework. Research this stuff out for yourself. So, until I see you next time, this is Sharon Hughes for all of us at Changing Worldviews, saying it like it is, because in today's world, we need the truth more than ever.
Thanks for listening to Changing Worldviews with Sharon Hughes. You can get more information on today's topic or order a CD of today's show by visiting changingworldviews.com or writing us at Changing Worldviews, P.O. Box 750624, Petaluma, California, 94975-0624. You can also contact us at talk@changingworldviews.com. That's talk@changingworldviews.com. Our program is listener-supported, and we appreciate your tax-deductible donations to help us get the truth out on the important issues Sharon addresses on the show. So until next time, remember, stay alert, stay informed. We live in a changing world.